Welcome to Plains High School Physics class. Today we are at the Plains Airport. We are completing a ground school and flying with Randy Garrison. This is the final project of our unit on aerodynamics and flight.
Just ask away, I'll try to answer them. Don't know every question, but I'm sure I can have an answer. So this is a 1964 Piper Cherokee 234, so it is 60 years old. Hard to believe, I know. What people don't understand or realize about aircraft is they're governed by the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. And so unlike a car, this aircraft has to be checked once a year. We call it an annual. And we have a special mechanic, not a car mechanic, a special A&P mechanic, which is designated by the FAA, certified to work on aircraft. And he goes through that whole airplane. He checks the control surfaces, he checks the engine, he makes sure that everything's in tip-top condition and is airworthy. And what we call airworthy is it's able to fly. Unlike your car, who I'm sure a lot of people drive them until they run out of oil and then the engine quits, you know. These are very controlled, very much controlled by the federal government, the FAA. And so it's mandated to do all these different inspections and everything. So even though it's a 60-year-old airplane, it flies just like a brand new one. The engine is gone through, it's compression checked. We'll talk about the engine and some of the safety features about that. I mean, people think it's unsafe to fly, and it can be. I'm not saying there's not risk. But if it's done properly, the aircraft is maintained, and the pilot is certified and goes through all the hoops and hurdles, you know, it's a very safe means of transportation. Like for myself, I have to go, when I learn to fly when I was in high school, it was about 4 or 5 months of flight training to get a pilot's license, and there was a written exam and a oral test, and then you had to go up and do a 2 hours of flight training with a FAA certified inspector to be verified that you're capable of flying the aircraft. Once a year, I go back in and get a flight physical to make sure my ticker keeps ticking and I'm not gone wacky or something. And I also have to go back to school once a year, and to both the ground school and the flying school. So I go up and we do maneuvers and do a bunch of practice steps just to make sure that I'm proficient, still proficient. And every pilot goes through that. It's not just me. Commercial pilots, everybody goes through this training. So it's important to keep at that level so that you're always on your toes. Simple. So when the aircraft is flying and is flying along at level, the lift is generated on the wings and it stays in the air. As the aircraft tilts and you're climbing, that's what we call the angle of attack. So it's the difference between straight and level flight and at an angle. At some point, that airflow over that wing or the airfoil will be disrupted because it's going at a different speed, and at that point the wing will actually stall. And what a stall is, it's really simple. The wing is just no longer creating lift. And once it stalls, it's not a big thing. You just put the nose down, off you go. Now, if you continue that and it stalls and it turns into a spin, not good. Okay? We're not going to do that.
You ever had that happen, Randy?
No.
Okay.
I practiced it years ago, and I still practice stalls. It's a very simple deal, but we won't do any of that. Okay, stay where you're at. We're going to do one more and then you can get out. Okay, so now we're flying, and we want the airplane to climb. So what we're going to do is pull back on the yoke, just gently. You see how this is the horizontal stabilizer. This is the vertical stabilizer. It has the rudder as well. So when we turn, we're going to use the rudder, which is on the foot pedals, and then the horizontal stabilizer. Okay, so now we're going to climb, so we're going to pull back on the yoke. See how it comes up? So now we're going to descend. So we push forward on the yoke. Keep going. And so you can see the angle of this changes. And by doing so at this setting, the aircraft is going to be nose down, so we're going to descend. If we pull back on the yoke, pull back on the yoke. Tierney. Pull back on the yoke. Okay. Now the aircraft's going to go up. Okay?
Fair enough.
Got it? Okay, Tierney, you can get out if you want.
Flaps are a high-lift device consisting of a hinge panel or panels mounted on the trailing edge of the wing. Flaps help to either increase or decrease the camber or surface area of the airplane wing, making it turn.
Ailerons are a hinged surface in the trailing edge of an airplane wing used to control lateral balance.
The rudder is a small moving section at the rear of the plane that is attached to another fixed section by hinges. The rudder is used for controlling the plane's direction and keeps the plane stable. To control the rudder, there is a pedal placed inside the plane that the pilot can control.
Throttle sets the desired power level, normally by a lever in the cockpit.
Thrust is a mechanical force generated by the engines to move the aircraft through the air. It is generated most often through the reaction of accelerating a mass of gas.
Drag is the aerodynamic force that opposes an aircraft's motion through the air. Drag is generated by every part of the airplane. Drag is a mechanical force. It is generated by the interaction and contact of a solid body with a fluid.
Lift is an aerodynamic force produced by the motion of a fluid past an object. Bernoulli's principle says that the increased speed atop the wing is associated with a region of lower pressure there, which is lift.
Gravity is an invisible force that pulls objects towards Earth. In a plane, gravity is the downward force that opposes lift, an upward force.
To conclude, we would like to thank Randy Garrison for his amazing experience. We have learned a lot as a class, and this helped us wrap up our aerodynamics unit. Not only did we learn the fundamentals of flight, but we also got first-hand experience of flight.